Take a look at this timeline. Which generation do you belong to? Today, we are breaking down every generation in modern history, from the trenches of World War I to the AI-driven cyborgs of tomorrow. Let's zoom in. We begin with the lost generation, born between 1883 and 1900. The term was famously coined by writer Gertrude Stein and popularized by Ernest Hemingway. This was the generation that came of age right during the devastation of World War I. They marched off to war with traditional romantic ideals of honor and glory, only to face the brutal reality of machine guns, trench warfare, and poison gas. Millions never returned. Those who did survive the war and the horrific 1918 flu pandemic returned home completely disillusioned. The traditional values of their parents no longer made sense in a world capable of such mechanized slaughter. This trauma gave birth to the Roaring Twenties, an era of reckless spending, jazz, and rebellion, as people desperately tried to forget the past and live for a today that might not last. Their defining legacy is one of profound artistic explosion, deep cynicism, and incredible resilience. Next is the Greatest Generation, born between 1901 and 1927. The journalist Tom Brokaw gave them this title, and for good reason. Their childhoods were defined by the severe economic desperation of the Great Depression. They learned to survive on very little, developing a mindset of extreme frugality, hard work, and collective sacrifice. But their ultimate test came with the outbreak of World War II. This generation put their lives on hold, picked up rifles, built airplanes in factories, and literally saved the globe from the tyranny of fascism. When they came home, they didn't complain. Instead, they took advantage of new government programs to buy homes, go to college, and build the massive industrial middle-class economy of the mid-20th century. They were defined by a profound sense of duty, honor, and humility. Following them is a group often squeezed between two giants, the Silent Generation, born roughly between 1928 and 1945. You can see the man in the fedora holding his finger to his lips. They were too young to fight in World War II, but too old to participate in the wild counterculture of the 1960s. Why are they called silent? Because they grew up during the paranoia of the Cold War and the McCarthy era, where speaking out could ruin your life. Their mantra was to keep their heads down, work hard, respect authority, and not rock the boat. They married early, had children early, and embraced corporate conformity. However, it's a massive irony that while the generation as a whole was labeled silent, it actually produced some of the loudest and most pivotal civil rights leaders in history, including Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. Then came the demographic explosion, the baby boomers, born between 1946 and 1964. After the harsh years of war, soldiers came home, the economy skyrocketed, and birth rates exploded. Boomers grew up in an era of unprecedented global prosperity and rising living standards. As they became teenagers and young adults in the 1960s and 70s, they rebelled hard against the strict conformity of their Silent Generation parents. They brought us the hippie movement, Woodstock, second-wave feminism, the civil rights movement, and massive anti-war protests regarding Vietnam. They demanded peace, love, and personal freedom. But as they aged into the 1980s, many traded their tie-dye shirts for corporate suits, ushering in an era of intense consumerism and deregulation. Today, boomers hold a massive, disproportionate amount of the world's wealth and political power, leading to deep economic tension with younger generations. Generation X, born between 1965 and 1980, is often called the forgotten middle child. They grew up in an era where divorce rates suddenly skyrocketed and both parents entered the workforce. As a result, Gen X became the latchkey kids, coming home to empty houses, making their own snacks, and essentially raising themselves. This bred a generation that is fiercely independent, highly self-reliant, and deeply cynical of authority and institutions. They came of age during the end of the Cold War, the AIDS epidemic, and the explosion of MTV, grunge music, and hip-hop. Crucially, they are the bridge generation. They are the last humans to remember what it was like to grow up entirely analog, riding bikes until the streetlights came on. But they were also the first to embrace the dawn of the personal computer and the early internet in their young adulthood. This brings us to the Millennials, or Generation Y, born between 1981 and 1996. Look at the tired worker staring at a laptop with a cup of coffee. That image perfectly captures the millennial burnout. They are the first true digital natives, remembering the screeching sound of dial-up internet, transforming into high-speed broadband, and the birth of social media. They were raised by optimistic boomer parents who told them that if they just went to college and got a degree, a successful life was guaranteed. Instead, they graduated straight into the devastating 2008 Great Recession. Straddled with massive, crippling student loan debt and facing a stagnant job market with skyrocketing housing costs, millennials had to completely rewrite the rules of adulthood. They delayed marriage, delayed buying homes, and popularized the gig economy. Despite the financial stress, they are highly educated, deeply value experiences over material ownership, and have forced companies to care about mental health and work-life balance. Generation Z, born between 1997 and 2012, has never known a world without the internet in their pocket. For them, smartphones and social media algorithms aren't just tools. They are the primary lens through which they view reality, socialize, and form their identities. This constant digital connection has made them the most globally aware, diverse, and socially conscious generation in history. But it has come at a severe cost. Gen Z is currently facing an unprecedented epidemic of anxiety, loneliness, and depression. They grew up doing active shooter drills in schools, absorbing the daily dread of climate change, and having their critical high school and college years completely derailed by the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result, they are highly pragmatic and financially cautious. They do not trust corporate loyalty. They are rejecting the traditional 9-to-5 grind, and they are leveraging the internet to create entirely new, decentralized ways to make a living. Following them is Generation Alpha, born roughly between 2013 and 2024. Although our image mistakenly labels them as Gen Z, you can clearly see the child holding a tablet and a VR headset. These are the children of millennials. They are the glass generation, raised quite literally with screens in their hands since infancy. Their physical and digital worlds are not separate. They are entirely blended. Gen Alpha experienced a global pandemic during their most critical developmental years, leading to widespread shifts in how they learn and socialize. They are growing up with AI voice assistants, tablet-based learning, and algorithmic entertainment like TikTok and YouTube Shorts. Educators and psychologists are currently watching this generation closely, as they are expected to be the most formally educated and technologically immersed group in human history, but they also face entirely new, uncharted challenges regarding attention spans and dopamine regulation. Finally, we look toward the horizon. The new age generation, often referred to as Generation Beta, representing those born from 2026 and beyond. We are just on the cusp of this generation entering the world. Look at the futuristic, cybernetic figure in the timeline. While they might not literally be cyborgs at birth, their integration with technology will be completely symbiotic. This generation will be born into a society where artificial intelligence is ubiquitous and woven into the fabric of daily survival. They will likely see the mainstreaming of biological enhancements, advanced gene editing, and neural interfaces that connect the human brain directly to the cloud. They will inherit a planet fundamentally altered by climate change, forcing them to live in smart cities designed for radical sustainability. For the new age generation, the line between human and machine, between physical reality and virtual simulation, will not just blur, it will completely disappear. Generations are not about strict stereotypes. They are about understanding the shared environments, traumas, and technological leaps that shape a collective worldview. From the trenches of Europe to the digital metaverse, the human spirit constantly adapts to whatever reality throws at it. Which generation's struggles and triumphs resonate the most with you? Let me know in the comments below. If this timeline gave you a new perspective on history, hit the like button, subscribe for more breakdowns, and I'll see you in the next one.